Hello, ladies and gentlemen, I'm Nate the Lighting Guy, and welcome to part 3 on how to connect the Novation Launchpad Pro to QLC+. Today, I'm going to show you how to prepare sliders on your Launchpad and use them to control the brightness of a spotlight. Before we begin, make sure your Launchpad Pro is set up with QLC+. You will also want to have your fixture prepared you want to control and have the background scene set up on the Launchpad. If you haven't done these yet or don't know how, you can watch my 2 previous videos on how to do these, and the links for those are in the description. In order to create a properly working slider, we need to create 2 scenes, one that will control the level of the light, and the other which will light up the buttons white up to the level we selected on the Launchpad. Then we need to take those 2 scenes and put them into a collection so they're easy to edit later if needed. Now, add the collection to the chaser with the hold time set to infinite. In the Virtual Console, all 8 chasers will be put inside a solo frame, and you will attach the 8 buttons to the 8 chasers through Next Step external input. Note there is only 3 in this diagram due to limited space. In the Fixtures tab, make sure you have set up the Launchpad Pro as described in the first video, and the light you want to control hooked up as well. In the Functions tab, I have already created the background scene so we can focus on just creating the slider. All it consists of is 8 buttons lit up with the lowest setting, color blue, and gradually changing to color red, which is the highest level on the slider. Create a scene and call it Fixture Brightness Level 0. Add the fixture you are using. Enable only the dimmer channel, and leave it at 0. Unlike regular buttons, we need to have a scene that turns off the light, because all other scenes in the slider, once activated, cannot be turned off unless a different scene on the slider is selected. Let's pull up a calculator and take the highest value we can send to a channel, which is 255, and divide it by 7. Of course, we can't send decimal numbers, so we'll just round to 36. Clone Fixture Brightness Level 0, rename it to Fixture Brightness Level 1, and set the dimmer to 36. Clone Fixture Brightness Level 1, rename it to Fixture Brightness Level 2, and set the dimmer to 72. Clone Fixture Brightness Level 2, rename it to Fixture Brightness Level 3, and set the dimmer to 108. Clone Fixture Brightness Level 3, rename it to Fixture Brightness Level 4, and set the dimmer to 144. Clone Fixture Brightness Level 4, rename it to Fixture Brightness Level 5, and set the dimmer to 180. Clone Fixture Brightness Level 5, rename it Fixture Brightness Level 6, and set the dimmer to 216. Clone Fixture Brightness Level 6, rename it to Fixture Brightness Level 7, and set the dimmer to 255. Click through the scene's brightness levels 0 through 7 and make sure the increments seem even. You have now created the 8 brightness levels for your light. We now need to create the 8 brightness level indicators for the Launchpad. Create a scene and call it Slider Button Level 1. Add the Launchpad Pro. Refer back to the background scene if needed to find out which buttons you assigned. Enable only channel 19, and set it to 6. If we refer back to the background scene again, you can see that the next button is always 10 channels down the line, so let's keep that in mind while we create the rest of the scenes. Clone slider button level 1, rename it to slider button level 2, enable channel 29, and set it to 6. Clone slider button level 2, rename it to slider button level 3, enable channel 39, and set it to 6. Clone slider button level 3, rename it to slider button level 4, enable channel 49, and set it to 6. Clone slider button level 4, rename it to slider button level 5, enable channel 59, and set it to 6. Clone slider button level 5, rename it to slider button level 6, enable channel 69, and set it to 6. Clone slider button level 6, rename it to slider button level 7, enable channel 79, and set it to 6. Clone slider button level 7, rename it to slider button level 8, enable channel 89, and set it to 6. Click the background scene to reset the background colors, then click from slider button level 1 to slider button level 8 and watch the launchpad to see the progression of the slider. We have now created the indicator lights for the slider. We will now create the collections needed for each of the slider's levels and the corresponding brightness setting for your fixture. Create a new collection and name it Collection Level 1. Now be careful because adding scenes here can be a little confusing. Add Fixture Brightness Level 0 and add Slider Button Level 1. Create a new collection and name it Collection Level 2. Add Slider Button Level 2. And add Fixture Brightness Level 1. Create a new collection and name it Collection Level 3. Add a Slider Button Level 3. And add Fixture Brightness Level 2. Create a new collection and name it Collection Level 4. Add Fixture Brightness Level 3. And add Slider Button Level 4. Create a new collection and name it Collection Level 5. Add a Fixture Brightness Level 4, and add Slider Button Level 5. Create a new collection and name it Collection Level 6. Add Fixture Brightness Level 5, and add Slider Button Level 6. Create a new collection and name it Collection Level 7. Add Fixture Brightness Level 6, and add Slider Button Level 7. Create a new collection and name it Collection Level 8. Add Fixture Brightness Level 7, and add Slider Button Level 8. We have now created the 8 collections needed for the 8 buttons of the slider. We now need to create the 8 chasers and add the collections to them so that the slider on the launchpad acts as though it's a virtual slider. Add a chaser, name it Chaser Level 1, and set Common Hold to Infinite. Clone Chaser Level 1 and rename it to Chaser Level 2. Clone Chaser Level 2 and rename it to Chaser Level 3. Clone Chaser Level 3 and rename it to Chaser Level 4. Clone Chaser Level 4 and rename it to Chaser Level 5. Clone Chaser Level 5, rename it to Chaser Level 6. Clone Chaser Level 6 and rename it to Chaser Level 7. Clone Chaser Level 7 and rename it to Chaser Level 8. Select Chaser Level 1 and add Collection Level 1. Select Chaser Level 2 and add Collection Level 2. Select Chaser Level 3 and add Collection Level 3. Select Chaser Level 4 and add Collection Level 4. Select Chaser Level 5 and add Collection Level 5. Select Chaser Level 6 and add Collection Level 6. Select Chaser Level 7 and add Collection Level 7. Select Chaser Level 8 and add Collection Level 8. You have now created all the needed chasers for the slider and added the collections to them. Before we move on to the virtual console, click the green flag and set the startup scene to the background scene. Now go to the Virtual Console tab. First, we need to add a solo frame to house the 8 chasers. Expand it so there is room for adding and placing the cue lists, and add a cue list. Right-click the cue list and click Widget Properties. Click Add Chaser and add Chaser Level 1. Click the Next Cue tab and click Auto Detect. Now press the bottom button of the slider on the Launchpad and click OK. Add a cue list. Click Widget Properties, add Chaser Level 2, click the Next Cue tab and click Auto Detect, press the next button up on the slider on the Launchpad and click OK. Move the Chaser Level 1 cue list to the bottom and the Chaser Level 2 cue list above it. Add a cue list, click Widget Properties, add Chaser Level 3, click the Next Cue tab and click Auto Detect, press the next button up on the slider, click OK, and place it above the other cue lists. Add a cue list, click Widget Properties, add Chaser Level 4, click the Next Cue tab and click Auto Detect, press the next button up on the slider, click OK, and place it above the other cue lists. Add a cue list, click Widget Properties, add Chaser Level 5, click the Next Cue tab, click Auto Detect, press the next button up on the slider, click OK, and place it above the other cue lists. Add a cue list, click Widget Properties, add Chaser Level 6, click the Next Cue tab and click Auto Detect, press the next button up on the slider, click OK, and place it above the other cue lists. Add a cue list, click Widget Properties, add Chaser Level 7, click the Next Cue tab and click Auto Detect, press the next button up on the slider, click OK, and place it above the other cue lists. Add a cue list, click Widget Properties, add Chaser Level 8, click the Next Cue tab and click Auto Detect, press the next button up on the slider, click OK, and place it above the other cue lists. I know that was a little fast, but we have now completed all the steps to making a fully functional slider on the Novation Launchpad Pro. Let's test it by setting QLC Plus to operate mode and try out the slider. It's working great. You can even slide your finger up and down the buttons, making it feel a little more like a real slider. If you try to press the same button again, you cannot turn it off, no matter how many times you press it. It just stays on until another button is pressed thanks to the single-step chasers and the solo frame. I'm going to size down the cue list to make them fit in a smaller space. That's better. You can even set the solo frame to hide the header if you really want to size it down. Then move all the little cue lists up to the top corner and resize it again. And that is how to make a slider on the Novation Launchpad Pro. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial on how to program sliders on the Novation Launchpad Pro with QLC+. If you like this video, please be sure to subscribe, and feel free to comment if you have any questions on what I did in this video. Until next time, I'm Nate the Lighting Guy, and thanks for watching.